Hey, hey, Eric, it's given us it's blocking off some of the screens again.
Yep. We
I
can't
think we're
see
live.
Ryan's. We're live, but we can't see Ryan and I's
It's cutting
screen.
it again. I think probably your miners are probably drawing the bandwidth.
Turn this off. Close that up.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, let's get started. So this is Young Money Markets. It's Tuesday, and man, we're excited to talk about the markets today. We got Josh, Nick, Eric, Ryan, and man, we got a lot of cool stuff to talk about. The Fed was talking about Bitcoin today, and we're also going to continue, I think, some of our conversation about Anchor and also margin investing. We started last week, so I kind of like to start at a recap of what the Fed was talking about, because I feel like a lot of the things going on with the Fed is driving the markets. I mean, we're seeing the stock market's down today. We're seeing a lot of people paying attention to what they're saying. So when they talk about Bitcoin, that feels like it's important. So Nick, you mentioned you had your eye on this today. What were you seeing? I know you're also thinking about Tesla as well, I think.
Yeah, the the conversations that were happening today were with Congress and Jerome Powell and the um, the Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, and there were a number of different topics that were discussed that I thought were interesting. Regarding Tesla, there was a lot of conversation, a lot of people that were really concerned in some of the states that are very heavily dependent on oil and gas. There's concern around the potential for punitive lending practices going into the future as it relates to the oil and gas industry. So things like, in the future, are there going to be limitations that are put on place for banks to lend to oil and gas companies? And there are a lot of people that are really concerned about that. And so we saw a lot of the folks from Congress kind of in some of the states that were really heavily dependent on oil and gas come up and kind of speak to that. What we heard from Janet Yellen and Jerome Powell was, in every case, they reiterated, they kind of waffled on, as you'd expect, they waffled on kind of the direct answer to the question. But in each case, they said, sustainability and green energy is of utmost importance to this administration. And so they didn't say that there would be any punitive lending practices that were put in place. I fully do not expect there to be anything punitive put in place there. But the fact that they kept re-emphasizing like sustainability and green energy is of utmost importance from a strategic initiative standpoint for this administration, it's just so bullish Tesla. You think about what happened with the winter storms in Texas this year. Tesla is a company, probably one of the only companies that actually can reimagine the grid and do it in a way that makes sense. and it's almost like an impossible task. You need like an impossible person to confront an impossible task. And I feel like Elon is just one of those guys who there's just very few of them, but he's up for the challenge. And I just can't see how you would listen to the conversations today and not think like, wow, I'm bullish Tesla. So that was one of the things. Just also of note, I think a couple other things that were interesting to me. The topic of privacy. So actually, let me take a step back. One of the questions that came up a couple times was around, with these stimulus packages, there's issues with. It starts with like a $1.9 trillion stimulus package. It starts at the Federal Reserve level, and then it goes down to the state level. Then it goes down through, and every single time, every layer, there's bureaucracy, there's red tape. What if everybody had their own wallet, like a Bitcoin wallet, and from the Federal Reserve, we could instantly distribute funds to people, and they all had their own unique wallet, but it was just all through blockchain technology. So that was asked. That was asked to both Janet Yellen and Jerome Powell. They both kind of said like, yeah, it's interesting. It's something that we're thinking about and we're kind of working through. What they said was that privacy, like totally private coins and blockchains and things like that, that those will not work. I would see that as a headwind for coins like Zcash, Secret Coin, and Tornado. If you own any of those, I would really go back and rewatch some of the Fed commentary around that, because it sounds like there's going to be consistent headwinds. And I know that's not shocking, but it sounds like the Fed is really against anything that's like completely private. Now, Bitcoin, on the other hand, is totally public, so it's kind of the opposite of that. But that was one of the kind of key takeaways that I had from today. And yeah, so that was kind of my takeaways. Bullish Tesla. I'd be really wary, continue to be wary about any of these privacy coins. And then I have like another kind of takeaway, but I want to hear, Ryan, what your thoughts on the latest kind of conversations with the Fed are, and I know you've got some thoughts on Bitcoin as well. So
I do have some thoughts on that, but you and I, Nick, are always going back and forth on what is today, what's today's reality versus like what a Bitcoiner's ideal reality is in the future. So I want to pop that over to Josh first, because when Nick says something like, well, the central organizations aren't going to like security coins, to me, like, it's like an alarm going off in my head of like, well, yeah, they're not going to like Bitcoin either, but we're going to take, like, we're taking over. So Josh, like, what do you think about what Nick's saying to that, and what side of the fence are you on?
I didn't hear the exact what the press release was. I do own Zcash, and I'm definitely not selling. I think it's FUD. They said the same thing about Bitcoin. It launders all this money, this and that, and we know fiat's the dirtiest. Yeah, I'm not worried about it. In fact, long term, it's a good thing, because they're scared of it. But how are they going to stop it? Like, just because they don't like it doesn't mean they can go in and actually shut it all down. It's not going to happen. I mean, they might outlaw it. So in my case right now, I'm actually holding Zcash with Celsius, which is KYC. I'll pay my taxes if it goes up. But if they outlaw it in the U.S., Celsius will no longer allow U.S. citizens to hold it with them, and I'll just bring it to a private wallet, right?
Right.
And so now they've pushed me from KYC to no KYC, so it's actually going to backlash against the Fed, and then people in that position can hide their taxes, from buying and selling it. So it's, yeah, I think it'll backlash on them, but.
So real quick, we did get a chat or a message in our chat. saying it seems that the retail enthusiasm around the electric car makers has pretty heavily subsided. Yeah, I mean, I think that we've seen that just in general across a lot of the different risk assets. We've talked about this on a prior episode. A lot of the companies that were trading at really high PE ratios and things like that, they sold off because of worries around inflation. I think the longer term trend around electric vehicles and just electrification in general remains intact. And
Oh yeah,
I
big
think
time.
we continue to hear that echoed in the sentiment that that we're hearing from Jerome Powell and Janet Yellen today, that that green energy and the electrification of the grid just continues to be of utmost strategic importance to the Biden administration. That to me it's just that same kind of, I think we're getting it's just the message is just super clear that, you know, we want to move towards this future of electrification. And so like, while there's a short-term pause around this, I don't think that anything about the long-term trend is going to be impacted here.
Yeah, no,
This is the
yeah.
future.
And we kind of two topics floating right now, but yeah, like even like the VW and VW is really incentivized to believe this, but their CEO came out last week and said electric's already won. Like we're and they've been all in on EVs, and they're planning on launching something like 30 or 35 new models by 2025, and a large portion of their sales is planned for EVs. So there's a huge amount of the market, and I kind of misread the comment at the very beginning because I guess he's talking about the stock market. But I'm with you, Nick. Like there's way too many resources going into EVs right now for anything to slow down from the automotive kind of vision perspective. So
Yeah, and I mean Tesla.
So that's
What's up, Josh?
well, we see investors selling off in oil today. It sold off pretty hard. It's been selling off, and that's. I'm not sure if it's timing, if it's the comments, or if this is the new administration, you know, putting their foot down on the oil industry. Could be both, but whether or not this whole Tesla thing is, you know, or the electric vehicle thing is right or wrong and oil is bad, you got to look at it from an investment standpoint. The administrations, not just in the US, but also overseas, are pushing and subsidizing the electric car industry. And they're kind of putting a chokehold on the other guys. They still do get subsidies. Oil producers still get subsidies, but they're now coming from their pot and being put over to the electric car makers,
right.
which is bullish for Tesla. It's just going to be bullish for
Absolutely.
EV vehicles in general.
For sure.
Absolutely. Josh, can you zoom out a little bit to like a 3-year view? Because I want to see how this relates if you take out early last year. Because obviously
it's tough because this little candle, it's hard to see, you know, when it went negative.
But if you look at, yeah, that's kind of what I'm talking about there. It looks like people were bullish on oil, but I'm not sure that's the right way to look at it. I
Man,
feel
look
like
at that drop, dude. Oh my God, look at that drop.
Yeah.
Don't you remember when everything went negative? Yeah.
Oh my God,
that was crazy.
Dude,
Yeah.
I was thinking at the time, I was like, what if I just
day.
What if I received like 5,000 barrels of oil? Like, could I store them at my house? And
exactly.
yeah.
But that was like an artificial thing with, you know, it was like Saudi Arabia was involved in that, and there was a bunch of seemingly dumping going on. So I guess my point is, like, the way the chart looked before, it seemed like the market's super bullish on oil, but we're really just getting back to kind of normal levels now. I think I actually bought it like $1.98 last March. So yeah. Anyways.
You bought oil at $1.98?
Yeah.
Futures?
Dang.
Yeah. What were you saying, Josh?
A futures contract or an ETF?
No, actually, it was an ETF. Yeah, it was an ETF.
Was it USO? I bought
I
USO.
don't
I
remember.
bought USO and I lost money in it because it's such a shitty instrument.
I did
Yeah.
too. It doesn't track oil properly.
No.
I lost a bunch of
It's
money in that
horrible.
one too.
It's so bad. Stay away from
So,
USO,
but
guys, if you're looking at it.
yes, I do want to say one thing about oil here, though, is we're not bullish at all. Like when we say we're getting back to 2015 levels, you have to compare this to the other commodities. You have to compare this to lumber and everything else because everything's been rising in dollar terms because of all the printing. Oil's lagging behind, right? If we
Right.
look at copper here over that same time period, it paints a different picture. I know steel's doing the same thing. Lumber, and obviously Bitcoin and the stock market too. It's way higher than it was 2 years ago. Yeah, so look at copper.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean? So I
Yep.
still see oil as a laggard, and it's kind of falling because of the administrations. Is my guess.
Right. Right. Yeah. So, but yeah, I agree with you guys. I mean, obviously, we're a little bit of an echo chamber around EVs and Tesla here, but I think it's justified. What the question that I always ask, Nick, and that is hard to answer is what's the appropriate value of Tesla? You're obviously very bullish, and Josh, you're very bullish. I think I was buying Tesla around 150 or $200, and I sold last year so I could buy Bitcoin. And so I'm not as bullish as you guys, just because it feels crazy to me, the type of growth that it's seeing. But I'm still
Ryan,
very bullish on the industry.
But the thing is, man, I don't think of Tesla as a EV maker. I think of Tesla, and I know this is super cliche. Trust me, I know this is super cliche, but I think of Tesla as a technology company. And the reason being is I envision a world where Tesla just has personal vehicles, right? So like you got the Model Y, the Model X, the Model S, the Model 3, and we're going to keep the semi truck as a commercial vehicle, but we'll see other personal vehicles. I could envision a world where, imagine Tesla, you know, all those Amazon trucks that are going around. Well, what's the stop? So is Amazon going to have full autonomy by the time Tesla does? What's to stop Tesla from distributing things, you know, or licensing the software to an Amazon? Imagine that negotiation room. You're sitting down, you're Elon Musk, you're sitting down with, I don't know if it's Jeff Bezos anymore, but whoever it is on the Amazon team. And you say, all right, well, look, you know how all of your vehicles that drive around, they require a driver, right? That's like the primary source of like expense on an ongoing basis. I'm sure they spend billions and billions of dollars per year on drivers for their vehicles. You know, hey, we could cut that in half. Let's say they spend $30 billion on, or $10 billion on drivers. We can cut that in half, and all you got to do is pay us for the software. Well, Tesla, that's all profit. That's just all hitting the bottom line, because there's basically at that point all the data, all the software has been developed. Those are the things I see Tesla as being kind of more than just an automobile maker. And then if you go beyond just the autonomous vehicle portion and the software, I see Tesla as, back to what I was saying about Texas earlier, I see Tesla as being a disruptor for a PG&E. In California, anybody who's listening from California knows that California has huge issues with our electrical grid. PG&E is a private company, but they do a horrible job. There's issues every year with forest fires that come from old equipment that I don't know if it's public. I don't know if it's publicly traded. So this might not be PG&E that you're pulling up here. But
I'll put the Bitcoin
but I
back up.
appreciate the effort. I appreciate the effort. But yeah, but there's issues with the grid, and so I think, you know, Tesla could be a company that looks to solve that over time. And so if you think about it from that standpoint, you think about it from like electrifying the grid, cleaning up the grid, autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles, delivery, all those types of things, then all of a sudden the pie expands. And hot take, and this is something I've been thinking about a lot about recently. I think Tesla has an opportunity to be the most impactful company in the history of planet Earth, including Apple and Facebook and Google. I think Tesla has an opportunity to be more of a positive force or change more than change the world more than any company ever in history. If they actually expand to what their full, you know, capabilities are, and they actually pursue all these growth vectors, and they change what I think they can change. But if I look at Tesla from that standpoint, and I take a 30-year lens on it, I think you got to be insane to not own Tesla right now. And that's, I mean, I get that that's a hot take, but that's just kind of my, that's my
Yeah.
hot take on the situation.
I'm with you on.
Go ahead, Josh.
We're all it's the echo chamber.
Yeah.
I'm gonna reel it in a little bit because I'm looking at Tesla and just the ginormous stock increase or the price increase out of nowhere when it's been kind of, you know, flat for a few years. I shouldn't say out of nowhere. I mean, I think we could see this kind of plateauing again, like we did here in 2013 to 2017. I think we could see Tesla slowing down for a bit, and I'm just looking at this from an investment and what, you know, where to put my money in the future or today, versus other investments. Even though I believe in Elon and I think he's gonna, you know, he's gonna make some miracles happen. I really believe that. It's just Tesla though, right? And I know there's a lot with that with the autonomous vehicles and the solar and all that stuff, but it doesn't include SpaceX and it doesn't include the
Right.
Boring Company. It'd be interesting if we've talked about this before, if he came out with the Elon coin or in like a parent company where you can get a chunk of all of Elon's endeavors. And actually, SpaceX and the Boring companies are better set up for this because I feel like it'd be easier to do that when it's not public. He would have to take Tesla private and do those
Yeah.
Elon coins.
Well, but let's and I feel like, Nick, you're ultra bull on it, and you put your money where your mouth is, and so I appreciate that about you. You're not just talk on it, and everything you're saying is a fact. Like I love Tesla, but I have to give the other side as well to our audience, and that is, you know, even on the solar panel stuff, you're talking about Tesla replacing, you know, grid companies. They're not even the best solar panel company manufacturer in the United States. You know, SunPower has significantly better solar panel technology than Tesla. And so I get it. Like Elon is a blank page innovator, solve the problem dude that is very unique. I get the culture stuff that we've talked about on here. I'm planning on buying a Tesla this year. I've loved them forever.
Thanks, Ryan.
But
I appreciate a little sliver of that is going to go straight into my bank account, dude. I appreciate that.
So yeah, I just think that I agree with everything you're saying. There's just something here where I don't know. To me, like I read something from Michael, what's his name? Is it
Sailor?
Burry? Michael Burry.
Oh,
the guy from
Oh
Big
my
Short,
God, dude. Come on, man.
the Big
Big
Short.
Short.
Oh,
And
this guy.
and he was, well, I mean, he is a pretty successful.
Man.
He is a pretty successful investor. Yeah, he here recently was drawing connections to I believe the early 1920s in Germany, and essentially when hyperinflation happened with the mark, basically everyone was speculating, you know, what you're talking about, Nick, like another way to describe what you were describing, like you could say it's vision, you could say it's, you know, insights, you could say it's a lot of different things, but it's also speculation. Like you're speculating out and saying like, I'm going to invest in a company because of culture, because of innovation, because I believe in it, because of some of these things. And but it's, you're speculating out what they're going to do the same way that you're speculating out what the value of the company
Well,
should be. It's
I
speculation at this
absolutely
point.
I absolutely will say that absolutely anytime you look out into the future, regardless of what asset you're looking at, including Bitcoin,
Yeah.
actually especially Bitcoin,
Yeah.
I think that you are dealing with some degree of speculation. So absolutely, I agree there is speculation involved, but it is a question of who do you want to back
Yeah,
over
it's
the
true.
long haul. And I think we have a once in a generational person to back. But I also recognize we have a lot of other topics to get to, so we can move
Yep. Let's
off
do it.
Tesla. But what
Let's
else do
do
we
it.
want to get into?
Well, we mentioned, I just wanted to kind of finish up the Fed topic. Just the fact that the Fed, Jerome Powell, the Fed chairman, said Bitcoin is a substitute for gold. Okay, guys, this is happening really, really fast. So like to go from this is a scam to this is, you know, something that you shouldn't invest in, to something that's highly speculative, to Bitcoin is a substitute for gold. That's a really major statement that the Fed chairman doesn't let come out of his mouth without a lot of thought. So what was your guys' thoughts on that type of comment from someone like him?
I didn't even know he said that until you just said it. That's crazy.
It
Um,
is. It's wild.
Especially since the last Fed chair was calling it toxic and just trash, basically a way to launder money. I've known Yellen has said that a couple times. So it's cool. It's refreshing to hear that finally.
I felt the same way. I'm like, man, this is becoming mainstream really, really fast. And there's all kinds of banks and financial institutions that are trying to get in. I feel like we're seeing some mass adoption. The other thing, do you guys mind if I share my screen here real quick?
Yep.
Go for it.
I thought this was interesting. So one of the things that we talked about a couple times was, is Bitcoin a safe haven asset, or is it something that's correlated to the stock market? And I think the answer is both. So I think that Bitcoin is negatively impacted by the stock market. I think that's what we're seeing this week in part. But what the chart that we're showing here was, the Turkish lira fell 14% against the US dollar today. And you can see the jump in Google searches for Bitcoin. Something's happening with non-crazy technical people, not just the crazy Bitcoin people, where there's a word that's getting out to people of, if your currency is becoming devalued, Bitcoin is an option. Bitcoin is an option that you should at least consider. And I don't know if everyone globally, surely not everyone globally sees it as that safe haven asset, but I think most people would think that as our U.S. dollar is becoming, we assume, less and less valuable as a result of all the money printing that's happening in 2020, 2021, and we assume it's going to continue to happen. I believe this is a really bullish case for Bitcoin, and I believe this is an example of what we're going to see in the U.S. and other larger markets when the same thing happens here.
So do we want to get into where is the money going to come from to keep this bull run going?
I'd
where does
like
it have to take from?
Well, and
You wanna
also
start
let's
us?
let's also just address what's happened since the last time that we've talked, right? I think what we've seen is just a flat movement or down, right? I I don't know what's going to happen. obviously, I don't think any of us know for certain what's going to happen. That's why it's speculation. But if I had to guess, I would expect further downward movement. I think Bitcoin probably bottoms around 45K and then maybe bounces between 50, 60K and 45K for the next period of time. One thing that I'm concerned about as I kind of think more about what is my upper price target for Bitcoin. I've heard a lot of conversation about Bitcoin flipping gold. And so when you hear that, what that basically means is Bitcoin taking the same market cap as gold. And so gold's market cap right now is right around 10 trillion. It might be a little less than that because I know gold's been falling pretty aggressively actually over the past few months. So maybe it's down to like 9 trillion. But Bitcoin is at around 1 trillion. And so that means that Bitcoin market cap is about 1/9 the size of gold. One thing that I'm concerned about, and I don't hear enough people talking about, and look, I own Bitcoin. Just full disclosure, I own quite a bit of Bitcoin. Most 30% of my investment portfolio is in Bitcoin. So I'm not bearish Bitcoin. You can tell that by my actions, but I don't love the syrup that gets fed to everybody should do their own critical analysis. So I'm just talking about myself. What I don't love is when I hear people just propagating the same stories over and over again, because I feel like it sort of clouds judgment in terms of what's actually happening. And I don't hear enough critical conversation about what's happening. I hear a lot of like really rosy conversations about Bitcoin. One of the things that I'm thinking about, back to the Bitcoin flipping gold thing, is the concept of a store of value is not a new concept. That has been around for forever. Gold is a store of value, has been for forever. Real estate is a store of value, has been for forever. And so you've got to think that gold's market cap is what it is because all of the people who wanted to own a store of value owned gold, right? Or they bought gold or real estate, but for this case, we'll just say gold. I have a hard time envisioning a scenario where there's 9 trillion or 8 trillion, I guess, more dollars that all of a sudden decide, hey, I want to be put into a store of value. And they now all of a sudden go into Bitcoin, which is supposed to be the store of value, because gold was an option for all that time. So if there was $8 trillion more of demand for a store of value, it would have already been in Bitcoin, or sorry, it would have already been in gold. This is, and just kind of go with me on this for a minute. So where that takes me is, okay, so if Bitcoin is going to quote unquote flip gold, then I think what needs to happen is people who hold gold or own gold need to sell gold and buy Bitcoin, because that's the same dollars that want to be in this store of value allocation. And so, and we're talking about trillions of dollars. So this is a thing that a lot of people don't understand. Bitcoin is no longer like some penny stock that can be burst like a short squeeze, like a GameStop. You know, it's not a $20 billion asset class that can go up with a Mark Cuban buying in. It's a $1 trillion market cap asset at this point, $1 trillion. So it takes an enormous amount of money to push Bitcoin from where it's at right now to $9 trillion, which is where gold is. And so I think about that and I think, okay, so my hypothesis is if Bitcoin is going to actually flip gold, you know, maybe you could say there's going to be new investors who are interested in cryptocurrency, who are believers in blockchain technology and want to own Bitcoin for other reasons other than just the gold portion. Maybe that's a portion of it, but you still have to say 30 to 40%. This is just my idea, my thought. 30 to 40% of the people who, or governments that own gold, would need to sell their gold and buy Bitcoin in order for the price of the market cap of Bitcoin to eventually become the market cap of gold. $9 trillion, 1 trillion to 9 trillion. And so that's not to say that there can't be positive price movement in the short term to get us closer to that. I think there absolutely can. I think Bitcoin could turn from a $1 trillion asset to a $2 trillion or $3 trillion asset. But I'm thinking about, where is my price target over time? And I just think that not enough people are talking about, where does the money come from, because you're not talking about billions. You're not using B's anymore. You're using T's. And there's 1,000 billion in a trillion. And that's a lot of money that needs to go in to push this up. So I think people got to be thinking about that as they're thinking about their upper end, the price target on the upper end. It's not as easy for Bitcoin to become a $9 trillion asset class as you think it might be, unless you're talking about hyperinflation. If there's hyperinflation, then you could say that, but then every asset class is going to balloon like crazy. So inflation aside, no, but that's what I'm saying, Eric, is if we print money out of nowhere and we just flood the system with money and there's tons of money, all the asset classes will skyrocket. So you got to look at things in real terms, right? Because it's all about Bitcoin, or it's at the end of the day, we're trying to do is allocate capital to the most effective, thing. So I'm just talking real terms. The money to
So
get Bitcoin to the size of gold needs to come from somewhere, and it's not insignificant. We're talking about trillions of dollars here. So yeah, go ahead, Josh.
so governments are a big buyer, or have been in the past, big buyers of gold. We did a little research. It's kind of hard to find. We think the U.S. government's holding $500 billion in gold, which it's a good amount. They might be lying about that number. Who knows? Um, I've heard there's also a shortage. That's a different topic. But Eric brings up a good point with the printing and where those future dollars are going to go. And plus, we just talked about our new Fed chairman speaking about Bitcoin being a nice reserve asset. So it's not too far fetched to start seeing governments and central banks begin holding Bitcoin instead of buying more gold. Maybe they buy both, a mix of both. Maybe they, instead of
Yeah,
holding so much cash, they'll
like
buy
Iran's doing.
more Bitcoin. Yeah. So I think we printed $7 trillion on a global scale last year. I think it was more. That's on the low end of the guess. But
8
that's just
trillion.
in
Yep.
one. That was in
Yep.
1 year. That was in just 1 year. They'll print at least double that in the next 10 years. And this might be the new norm. So I'm thinking no problem Bitcoin can get to that gold mark without having to tap into it. And there's also another part here too is I don't think
But wait a
Bitcoin's
minute, wait a minute, Josh. Wait a minute. So do you agree though that if that happens and we're using the inflation uh line, then won't everything go up a ton? Like
yeah,
why
yeah,
wouldn't
in
real
dollar
estate go up
terms.
a ton,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, in dollar terms, 100%. But as far as gold, I don't know. I think gold won't go up as much as it would. Like, let's say Bitcoin was never created. Bitcoin was created in 2008, somewhere in here.
2011. Yeah.
It would be a different.
2009. Yeah.
It would be a different story with gold. I really do. I think gold would be higher today, and I think in the future it's going to steal from gold, and gold's going to kind of just
Right. Okay.
we talked about this earlier. Like my grandfather, when he was alive, for gifts and stuff, he has a ton of grandkids, or he did. He passed, but he would give us all these gold coins. Back when gold was $300, and now it's changing to Bitcoin. I've gifted my nephews and friends of friends children and family, and that's going to be a norm, I think,
So
across.
so my only concern with that is that's a great story, and I think that's awesome and that's bullish Bitcoin. But when we start talking T's instead
No,
of
yeah,
B's, we got a different scale going on as far as what it takes to move those markets. And especially when you talk about multiplying the scale of Bitcoin by 8 or 9 in real terms. So like let's set aside the hyperinflation story where we keep printing dollars, all the assets go up. Well, then all of a sudden $9 trillion doesn't really amount to $9 trillion real terms as of today. So just in real terms, setting aside the hyperinflation story, how do we get from where Bitcoin's at today to worth 9 trillion? And I think that involves some selling of gold in order to get
it doesn't
Bitcoin
have
up.
to.
Yeah.
But that's just
I'm
what
just
my hypothesis is.
so
You know?
there's one more value that I think is obvious here that's missing is it not just being a place to store value, not just being a place to
Yep.
replace gold, and that's
Right.
act as a cash, act as a place all these folks hold cash, and now they can hold Bitcoin, and we're trying to figure out a way to spend, whether it's going to be in USD form, or, you borrow against the Bitcoin, or you're actually going to spend the Bitcoins. That's, it's up to debate what you want to do with that. But that's becoming a reality every day with these the BlockFi credit card, the Fold app, crypto.com's debit card. Basically, you can start spending your crypto, and that's another uh, place I think Bitcoin's going to take as far as value.
I think both of you guys are right. I think what we're missing in the conversation is the bond market, and that's what Ray Dalio and that's what Michael Saylor are saying where the dollars are going to come from. So the world bond market's $100 trillion market, and so and basically what's happening right now, if you read Ray Dalio, he'll tell you that it doesn't make sense to have your money in bonds right now because basically it's a net loss. Because inflation is growing at such a rate where the yield you're getting out of bonds doesn't make sense anymore.
Well, and there's
Eh,
people that buy negative yield bonds. I mean, go over to Europe, go over to Japan. People are buying negative yield bonds.
Yep.
They're buying things that are going to pay them a negative return because
And
they
there's
think it's actually going to be more negative in the future than it is
yeah,
today.
and there's something there. Yeah, it could be that explanation, or in some cases, it's governments buying from governments, and there's all this weird stuff happening that makes it all fake. The other thing that
Yeah.
we're missing is the stock to flow. I saw this last week. Plan B released something about real estate stock to flow, gold stock to flow, Bitcoin stock to flow, silver stock to flow, all of these things, and it was all basically correlated. And basically, what's going to happen is Bitcoin stock to flow is going to go to 110 in 2024. And so basically, what you're counting on, if you think Bitcoin's not going to go up significantly and topple gold, basically what you're counting on is Bitcoin to follow centuries of trends for gold and real estate and silver and all of these. And then what you're expecting is that Bitcoin is going to fall off, and which is totally possible. Like how does Bitcoin fall off? People deciding it's no longer valuable. The reason why real estate and gold and silver, because they've always remained a store of value. People have always considered them a valuable asset they can put their resources in. If Bitcoin continues to do the things that Josh was talking about, and Nick, you've talked about as well, then we're going to see this trend continue. If
That's
it
a
proves
great
to be
point,
the
Ryan.
asset to think that we is, but the money's going to come from
It's
the
a
bond
great point.
market.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting, and I haven't heard
That's
that
huge.
before. But I
I don't know if you guys saw that. That 18
Oh,
trillion, that was back in December, $18 trillion today of negative yielding bonds. That was, in December.
yeah.
There's going to be a
Well,
day.
but
18 trillion.
those people, and just to play devil's advocate
Exactly.
again, right? But although Ryan, I think what you just said is super valid, and I think that's a key data point. If you interviewed those people, assuming there's no funky stuff going on with governments, and there probably is, there definitely is. If you ask those people why they're buying it, they go, "Oh, it's a sure thing. As long as I believe that Japan doesn't self-implode as a country, I know for sure that I'm earning this negative return on my investment. Whereas Bitcoin, I don't think anybody could look at Bitcoin at this point in time and say that that's a sure thing, right?
Yep.
People buy bonds because it's essentially fixed income or fixed non-income, fixed expenses, right?
Yep.
But Bitcoin isn't. So, but maybe if you had that perspective that Bitcoin could become that, then I could see how money could outflow from bonds into Bitcoin. So I think it's a super valid data point, Ryan.
I saw this from Michael Saylor today. CPI, Consumer Price Index, is a misleading measure of inflation. We all agree on that, so we don't have to dig into that too much. But this was what I thought was interesting, and it goes to the point that we're talking about right now. So I believe in the next 10 years, all of our retirement age people that we love, they're going to be moving money into Bitcoin. And the reason why is because all of the data that exists says that Bitcoin has the best return on your investment over the past decade. And so, but what Michael is saying here is volatility is a misleading measure of risk. So basically what's happening right now is because Bitcoin is volatile, organizations like that, like pension funds, for example. So all the retail stuff is great. All of the treasury funds is great. The way we flip gold is the bond market, it's pensions, it's adding it to those types of platforms. It's an ETF. Though that's the money that doesn't have access to Bitcoin right now. But so the volatility is a misleading measure. The former distracts us from the problem, while the latter distracts us from the solution. So volatility
distracts us from the solution.
Is
CPI
exactly.
Distracts us from the problem.
Exactly, which is really important. And that's what's going to change. That's what's going to flip before we flip gold, in my opinion.
So what I'll say is, if people subscribe to that, then yes, right. But that in itself is speculation. So,
Sure.
but okay, if we can subscribe to that, then yeah, I agree. I think that money that's in fixed income or in bonds, I think could outflow and go into Bitcoin. And then in that case, I think we see flipping gold as more of a real possibility, or a possibility that happens sooner in time rather than later in time. But I think it's a great point, Ryan. And by the way, just for the audience who's listening to this is a real dialogue that we haven't talked about ahead of time. So this is like real time. We're working through this.
This just happened.
Yeah, but I think the key thing is, and this is the point that I started with, and I'll finish with this, at least from my side, is I hear way too much syrup from people who are talking about Bitcoin. Way too much. People talk about Bitcoin as if it's a 100% sure thing. Again, I have my money where my mouth is. I'm an investor in Bitcoin. A third of my net worth is in Bitcoin. But that, and just the same with Tesla. I want to understand, I want to kind of address issues, because it strengthens my resolve in those moments. And there will be moments where our resolve is tested. And that's where, you're either going to be a paper hander or a diamond hander. But it's those moments of like the critical introspection that you've had, the research that you've done, you've understood the risks, you've kind of thought through them, but you have to go through that, as opposed to just ingesting the syrup that you're being fed all the time. Because when rough times come, that's the moments where you can resort back to like whatever it is the research that you put in. Or are you just going to be like, I don't even know what I was listening to that whole time. I don't know why I own this thing. I got to get out of here. So I just advocate for people to just always do critical thinking and do your own research. So.
Well, it's hilarious because Josh and Eric have found this nice like groove that they're in, where they can support everything. Somehow I became anti-Tesla and Nick became anti-Bitcoin, and we're both huge proponents of both.
Yeah. Well, and it's not just proponents, we have money behind those things, right?
That's right.
So,
That's right.
and I'm not anti-Bitcoin. I'm not. I'm just trying to find the walls, because when I get the
Yeah.
when I get the syrup, when I get the spoonful of syrup being fed to me all the time, that's where I'm like, whoa, easy.
Yep.
Let me understand what's
So-
actually going on here, and let's
Yep.
chill out a little bit.
Nick, Nick,
We're
Nick,
not
you
talking
should-
about that right now,
Nick,
Eric. We're not talking
Nick.
about that.
you should talk about what you want to do with your Bitcoin. What you're debating right now.
Well, okay, so dude, you really want to go down this path?
Yeah,
really
I
wanna-
think it's.
You want to put me on blast here in front of
yeah, I
this
mean, you don't
audience?
have to. I think it'd be a great learning thing for the audience and us other guys that
Man,
make.
okay, so what I'm thinking about, all right, just purely contemplating at this point is, I'll just say it, I'll rip the Band-Aid off. Selling my Bitcoin, okay? I would keep, just for the record, before I even proceed with anything, I own about 5,600 shares worth of Hut 8 miner, which is a Canadian Bitcoin miner out of Alberta, Canada. They hold every single Bitcoin they mine. They have over 3,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And I own a ton of Tesla, which has 15% of their cash reserves in Bitcoin. So I have quite a bit of Bitcoin exposure in other assets. My raw Bitcoin is what I'm talking about, okay? If I if I were to sell my theoretically, right, sell my Bitcoin, and I would, I would lump Ethereum in with that, okay? So both Ethereum and Bitcoin, which right now is about a 70-30 split, Bitcoin, Ethereum. If I were to sell both of those and I were to go into Anchor, or sorry, not Anchor, Mirror protocol, which we've talked about, but we might talk about again today. I would probably earn the equivalent tax hit that I would receive from that, because I bought Bitcoin somewhere between $30,000 and $35,000. That's where I bought like the vast majority of my Bitcoin, and I may have added like slightly to that, but that's generally my cost average. I would earn, just in like rewards from the Mirror protocol, I would earn the tax difference in a month. So 1 month of being in Mirror, I would be able to pay off my tax hit. And then my kind of like additional hypothesis is, if Bitcoin goes to 80 to 100 to whatever, if it keeps going up, it will actually pull the whole crypto market up with it. I don't envision a scenario where Bitcoin runs and then somehow Mirror or Terra or Ethereum, for that matter, don't run. I think that the whole crypto market will run as Bitcoin runs.
At some point in a longer
At some point.
horizon. Probably not
Yeah.
exactly the same
Yeah,
time.
maybe not exactly at the same time, but if Bitcoin's 100K, more people are interested in crypto, man. I can guarantee it. More people are going to be interested in crypto. So, if I pay my tax losses, or if I pay my tax hit off in the first month, and then Bitcoin pops off, then I'm going to benefit from that. And I'll continue to benefit from that. And if you don't know about Mirror, I can own Tesla. So I would buy Tesla. I would provide liquidity for Tesla. So I'd be exposed to Tesla, which is partially exposed to Bitcoin. And then, I don't know, maybe I just I hold my miner, right? I hold my Tesla, and that's enough exposure for me to Bitcoin. But I also understand that I'm losing direct exposure to Bitcoin, and there's no guarantee that the Mirror protocol continues to pay out the interest that it's currently paying. I'm not it's under some illusion that that's not a possibility. And also those taxes, man. I hate taxes. I just, but I also don't want to take out more debt. That's the thing, man. I'm really, and that's something that we haven't talked about, but I just don't know if I'm comfortable just taking out more debt right now. In crypto. And just in general, actually. I forget about crypto, just in general. But
right. Yeah.
So
man,
I'm not sure. Do you guys think that that's crazy? You guys probably think I'm crazy for even thinking about this.
I don't. If you think we stall out here, which I've been saying, since I first started talking about Mirror, I thought Bitcoin is just going to go sideways and just kind of stall out. It kind of has. It might actually go lower and be actually about where it was when I said that, and that's allows
Where
me
was that,
to
Josh?
stack. What's that?
We're a little below 50.
Where was that? Below 50?
It was 47,000.
Hmm.
When I said that, and that was about a month ago. And I mean, I actually I said it before that in our little investment chat group. It was actually before that, but I didn't start actually doing it till that 47,000. So I'm still exposed to the price of Bitcoin going up, even though it says synthetic. But I've also been able to stack more synthetic Bitcoin as we've been kind of turning here this past month. We went up, but it's not. I'm not going to realize those gains, so why not stack more in the meantime? If rip if Bitcoin just rips 100, 100K, 150K, 250K by the end of the year, your mirrored LPs, your liquidity providing for Bitcoin and UST will not outcompete raw Bitcoin. But I'm also under the thesis that, or hypothesis that Bitcoin isn't going to stay up there if it does go up there. And I'm not going to sell it either. I'm going to keep my raw corn. Even if it hits 300K, I'm not going to sell it. And I'll ride it back down if it comes back down to 100K or 150K, whatever it does. That's why I like the mirror, because I can just get those. It's like a fixed income thing. It's just passive income, and I have enough Bitcoin. And I don't think it's a crazy move, Nick, but I wouldn't sell all your Bitcoin.
See,
I think sell
what's the difference between that and owning Tesla, that owns some portion of their balance sheet is in Bitcoin? You're owning synthetic Bitcoin. That's not the same thing as real Bitcoin, right? How's that any different than owning Tesla that has partial exposure to Bitcoin or Square or
You
PayPal
don't
or
own
whatever
any
other companies?
actual raw Bitcoin then in that scenario. You own zero.
Yeah, but you don't either, right? Because
I
you
do.
do. I know you do. I know
Oh,
you
I
do.
do,
But
and I'm not.
I'm saying the synthetic Bitcoin is not actually.
The synthetic stuff is, for me, is a fixed income play. It's the passive income, so I can get more corn in the long term. Because the cool thing about Mir is the impermanent loss. If you think Bitcoin is going to stay or go down,
Yeah.
your Bitcoin count actually
Yeah.
goes up when Bitcoin
Right.
falls. So when you got 0.1 today at current prices, if it falls
Right.
down 50%, you might be closer to 0.2. And if
You'll
you
be protected there.
you'll be protected. And if you're really wanting to trade this, you can sell your synthetic Bitcoin LP tokens on the way down as Bitcoin's falling, and just hold Bitcoin then and capture the more Bitcoin that you got from it. It's a very
Yep,
complicated
totally.
trade, but if you're into it, it's a way to stack more Bitcoin indirectly.
Eric, what are
So
you
you don't
smiling
think
at,
I'm
man?
that crazy?
What are you smiling at? Come on.
Yeah,
That's what they call
Bitcoin.
it. That's what they call it.
So Ryan, you probably think it's crazy to sell any Bitcoin at this point, right?
No, I'm not gonna call you crazy. You think logically about everything. You think through the stuff. You and I have a little bit of a different approach. If you really want direct feedback on your strategy, it sounds like you're pretty heavily invested in Tesla, and would I potentially sell Bitcoin to get to further invest in one of the things you're passionate about? It's up to you, but where we're at right now in the cycle, we haven't even approached the bull market yet. If we're comparing it to 2017 or 2013, 2014. So, and maybe you end up being right and winning big. From my perspective, you never lose money taking profit. So you said you started in the 30, 35 area. You've made a good amount of money. You said you invested something like a third of your worth, I guess. And So you've made good money. Man, I'm never going to fault somebody for that. What Josh and I are talking about, it's not right or wrong. It's just where we're at with our thinking on Bitcoin. And like,
Totally.
I think Maxi's like, Josh and I, we tried, I think, try not to get into like this Maxi thing of like, if you don't think like us, then you're wrong, because that's as
Which I
wrong as,
appreciate, by the way, because
yeah,
a
because
lot of
that's,
people do. A lot of people do that.
yeah, it's as wrong. It's as wrong as somebody telling us that we shouldn't own Bitcoin, you know? And so, man, I like if you were just kind of being loosey goosey with it and just like, yeah, I'm tired of this, I'm gonna move over here, like, but that's not your style. So I'm not gonna tell you you're wrong. Would I move out of Bitcoin right now? No, but I'm a bad person to talk to if you want like
Yeah.
a friend in selling
Yeah.
Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So
No,
like
totally.
I lost sleep. I sold Bitcoin one time in the last 4 years, and it was in November and December, because I thought I was going to be able to sell the top and buy lower, and I lost sleep for a month checking my phone in the middle of the night trying to see like the price movements. And I just knew at that time. I told my wife. I finally bought back in, and I told my wife, I'm never doing this again. Like I have an emotional connection, and like it's just different for me. Like I could do that. You guys
No,
know,
man,
like
that's awesome, though. That's
that's just,
awesome.
well, I don't know if
I
it's
love that.
awesome.
I love that.
It's
No, it
maybe a
is.
little
It is
psycho,
awesome. It is awesome because it's conviction, man. It's conviction, and like, and I get your approach, Ryan. A lot of you bring the data, and you look at the data, and you're looking where money goes. But I think the more the riskier things that you get into, you got to have that courage of conviction, and then the sticking with it type of thing, even when the times are tough. That's almost where you really uncover if you really believe in something, is when, like, that's where you really understand. And also, that's how I know that I believe in Tesla so much, is when Tesla
yeah.
was tanking on like 550. Dude, I was willing to do anything. I was not going to get a margin call. I was not going to get liquidated on my Tesla position. I was like, I'll sell my house in Minnesota. I'll sell my house before I sell a single share of Tesla. I sold Tesla this past year, and I regretted it so much afterwards.
Yeah.
And I just, I'm in the same boat, man. But I do think that in the long run, like, in life, we only have a certain number of opportunities to pick things that we have super high conviction in, and then we think these things are going to define the future. And you almost do yourself a disservice by never like picking something and being like, yeah, this is something that I believe in, because you just don't get that
That's
many
right.
chances to see how many things that just light a fire under you. And so I'm a big conviction guy, and that's why my diversification has like shrunk over time, because I've just been like, why am I even like, why do I own Facebook stock? Like, I think their PE ratio is great, but do I think they're going to change the world? Do I want to be invested in them over the long run? Like, no, I'd rather be in
For,
Tesla. So
for the sake of the podcast, I am going to challenge one thing. One of your arguments is that you're exposed to Bitcoin with some of these other companies, and you asked Josh, and I understood your point because you're talking about synthetic versus stocks.
yep.
Um, I think there's something there of like, it feels to me like you're really focused on the culture, you're really focused on the product, you're really focused on the vision for somebody like Tesla, but then all of a sudden you're looking at their reserve assets for Bitcoin. And it feels like you're playing both sides of the aisle here, where you're like you're
Well, I kind
looking
of
at
am.
just
I
because
kind of
but
am.
what
Yeah.
is the fact that they have reserve assets in Bitcoin? It doesn't change anything about your investment thesis, is so I guess my point is
No,
like,
it kind of does. It kind of does.
okay. Well, it might
Kind of
make them a
does.
more stable. It might make them a more stable company long term, but it's not gonna make them sell cars better. It's not gonna make them be a leader in solar power. It's not
No,
going.
but I mean,
It
but
might
Yeah.
though.
Ryan,
It
I'm bullish.
it
It
actually
might, because
might.
they're cool. It
'Cause
brings a cool
more
factor.
they'll have more money. If Bitcoin goes up and it holds its value versus a dollar, and that extra 15% might be like ballooned to
Great point.
50% of
Agreed.
their
All
bank
sorts of
account,
things.
and
I
now they
just
can buy more tech and maybe acquire some stuff they wouldn't have.
I just think this exposure to Bitcoin because I own MicroStrategy, it's weird to me. I'm just gonna say, like, to me, it's
well,
like
why?
it's
Why?
well
They're like
because
all Bitcoin.
I know the reason why is because we're not focused on the profitability of the company. Like you've never once, Nick, when you're talking about like
Right.
why you have
Right.
conviction for Bitcoin, or I'm sorry, for Tesla, it's not like, well, look at their financial, look at their results. Like it's about everything else. When you like
Yeah.
and I just feel like this idea that we're getting exposure to Bitcoin is a little bit overstated in these publicly traded companies that have put a portion. Now if you look at them and
for
you
sure
say
with
like,
MicroStrategies, for
yeah,
sure with micros, but I will say that with MicroStrategies, they own 90,000 Bitcoin, right? So if
yeah,
right, isn't it 90,000? Like that's
a
so
lot,
many.
yeah, it's
That's
close
so
to
many Bitcoin.
100,000, yeah.
But what I'll say is MicroStrategies weirds me out a little bit because what what the fuck do they do? What the fuck did they do? No, I'm
Nobody
serious.
knows.
What the
They
fuck did they do?
They just
Other than buying Bitcoin and talking about Bitcoin on podcasts, what does MicroStrategies do?
I do know what
I
they
have
do.
no idea. I have no idea. I listened to him. He was like, Michael Saylor is like, yeah, security. We were working with BlackBerry back in the day. Also, is this all old stuff that just doesn't? Ryan, tell me, what do they do? I don't know. I really don't.
What they've done a lot. They do a lot of custom software build out. But like one of the things that Michael's like world renowned for is building commodity, like basically price research tools for organizations. So basically, like if you're an organization that you want to have a grasp on the movement of corn's price or something like that, you would come to MicroStrategy. They would help you build a tool. This is the way I understand it from what I've heard from his interviews. And they're experts in that area. What else do they do? I'm not sure if that's the core part of their business, if that's the only thing that they do, but
Yeah.
I do. But that's what I've.
Dude, listen,
But-
man. I
buy Bitcoin.
appreciate the
attempt.
information, the attempt. But look, it's okay. Nobody knows because nobody fucking knows what they do. So it's just the truth, man. Like
it is weird that you would be on like CNBC like every other day, and like you never take the time to explain.
You're never
what your
talking about your
business
company.
Just
And I've
Bitcoin.
heard
That's
like,
true.
what is your employee base thinking about Bitcoin? They're like, oh yeah, they love it, blah blah.
Yeah.
They love it because they're not doing jack shit, but their stock price is just going through the moon.
How
So
does a CEO have that much time for like every single interview? That's what I want to know.
because he's not
'Cause all
working
they're
on
doing is
anything
buying
else.
Bitcoin.
He's just buying corn, dude.
Oh,
Talking
man.
about corn.
Guys,
It's true, but
we had so many topics we wanted to get to today that we didn't.
didn't
Next
get to
time
any of 'em.
we got to get to next time. I mean, like the BlockFi interest, like we got emails
oh
today.
my god, we didn't
Block-
even talk about that.
BlockFi cut
That
their
pissed
interest.
me off, dude.
I want to hear about.
Shit.
I want to hear about
Can we
Celsius.
actually- Could you guys actually
Honored.
address that? Because you guys, we have two BlockFi account folks here.
Well,
Well, hold on, Ryan. I know you. Dude, we were talking about this the other night.
It is
You're not getting
9:20.
enough sleep. You're not getting enough sleep. You got to probably go.
yeah.
You have to leave, or
Well,
or what?
yeah. I would really like to hear like I'd like to have a full conversation because I want to hear more about Celsius. And so I don't know if we have time for that tonight, fellas. And because we are a little bit over on time, maybe we can save that for Thursday. And
Deal.
Could we get more into Celsius? Because Josh, I know you have experience with Celsius.
But Ryan, But Ryan,
Welcome aboard.
you know what just happened with BlockFi, right? Do you know what just happened with BlockFi?
That they reduced their interest
cut-
rates?
They reduced their
Yeah.
interest rate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Drastically.
Well, and the other
Drastically.
thing I was really looking forward to, today was, Josh, I was looking forward to hear, because Luna was down 22% in Bitcoin today. And so I wanted to hear how that affected the anchor. Thank goodness I took profits on Saturday.
Dude, we almost need to talk about that right now.
All right, let's get into
Because
it.
it'll be
Let's not wait on the
Thursday.
Luna.
Let's get into it.
Let's
get
talk
into
about it right now.
All right. I just
Yeah.
want I just want to hear like how does that impact the anchor stuff? Because
Tell us
if
what you
you're
did, and then tell us what's going on, dude. Give us a
I
scoop.
Well, okay, so
Josh, yeah.
Yeah.
I got into Anchor and I saw the nice little I can actually share the screen too. I took out a loan against my B Luna as bonded Luna. So to get into this Anchor, you have to change your Luna into B Luna, right? And you tie it up. And so you can kind of see my borrow limit is about to be approached by the amount I borrowed, right? And honestly, I'm not losing any sleep. Like it's for one, it's a smaller portion of my portfolio, but two, I'm not worried about it. Like I'm not worried about it all of this. The TVL of total value locked and Anchor continues to grow, even though the um the market cap of Luna is falling today. And I think that's just because we've had such a crazy run.
Yeah,
We're
big
due.
time. Yeah,
We're so due. So
due for correction.
me, I actually took this $1,200 and I'm over staking and earning rewards over in Mir. And I'm earning money like on top of the loan, and I'm taking this. I don't know if you guys can see this staking rewards in this section here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm literally taking that and buying more Luna. I'm gonna take this $35 that I've earned is, it's been less than a day, and I'm gonna just keep buying Luna as it falls down. And the TVL, if you look at Mirror too, the same thing. So it's up. It was 1.49 earlier. It's just straight up. So I'm
You're just
I'm
bullish.
not at all
You're
worried
just
about it.
bullish Luna, man. It's
I
just
I
bullish
just
Luna. But
I just
but tell
love
us
this
what's going on with
ecosystem.
this. Tell us what's going on with this whole that now the line is orange, Josh. So what are the liquidation points here and what's going on with
Okay.
that?
So when you borrow, they give you like a safety loan to value ratio at 35%, and it maxes out at 50. When it goes above here, collaterals will be liquidated. This is when um, you normally get your margin call, and it's actually liquidation. It's automated, so they'll put some of your B Luna up for auction, and someone else gets to buy it at a lower price. That's fine because all they're going to do is sell enough to bring the loan to value ratio down to this 80% right here. So they're only going to sell enough to basically just bring you down back into the safety range. So at this point, they'll sell what, $250 worth of B Luna, and I'm
Dude, what
buying
just
more.
happened with the collateral value? Did that just go down again?
It
This
it
must be like real time.
236. So I'm earning 236 on this 3,000.
And that was
And this
that.
is paid out in Anchor, right?
And you
Yep,
had a
and that
net.
uh, yep. So I'm getting money still on my collateral, which this is a huge up from doing it from BlockFi or Celsius, because when you tie up collateral with those guys, you lock it up and you no longer earn your rewards interest through Celsius, which is
Yep.
huge. That's a big deal. And also it's the speed too. Like I got that $1,200 with 2 clicks and I can instantly spend it, whereas Celsius was 24 hours if you do USDC, and BlockFi, they're just slow. I
And all of this stuff is, so that might sound scary to somebody because they might hear that and go, well, it's way too easy to borrow money. But the thing is, this is all locked in smart contracts. So if your loan to value ratio goes way down, then or goes loan to value goes way up, then it will automatically liquidate to protect all of the lenders, right? The
Yep.
people who are
Yeah.
lending.
and it doesn't liquidate all your collateral,
To
right?
the point it has to, yeah.
Just down to that 0.8. And once we get off the podcast here, I'm actually gonna grab some of my passive income from Mir and buy more B Luna here.
That
And like I can always repay this too before it hits the margin. Like I can put $200 back in to kind of like bring it down to safety. But it takes 2 clicks. So
yeah.
I'm not sweating.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty positive way of looking at it. You can see that I think the net APR, I think it was at 270 on Sunday, so that's adjusting as things adjust.
Yes.
So you're seeing that happen in real time, just over a couple days. So I think the other thing, and it's what we were talking about the other day, was like Josh knows how to use this. He knows how to manage it. He'll go on and look at it every day. What happens if there's huge price movements, if there's a 50% price movement and somebody doesn't want to manage this? So I just think there's still opportunities for us to figure out how to make this more user friendly for the average
Totally.
person.
Totally.
But that's cool, Josh. Thanks for sharing that.
It is. I want to add one more thing about the transparency is you can look at Anchor's how much they have in their actual pot for liquidity, which when you compare that to Celsius, you have no idea. And that's, to me, that is a one up for Anchor, because you get to see if things get a little dicey as far as being able to be solvent, I guess. There's an
Yeah.
whole central team of dudes or gals that are making the shots for where the stuff's invested, how much collateral they should have. It's all
Yeah.
driven by people, and we don't get to see the inside, like what their formula is. Anchor, you do, and it's smart contracts, it's code.
Yep. Well, I want to get into the Celsius next time, but this was something that this is what I'm talking about. Like I've been in crypto for 4 years. I've done a bunch of different stuff. I came on here. I just tried to connect a Terra wallet to this. It said that it's trying to initializing the wallet for 3 days. It says some time is required. I've tried refreshing and restarting, and
Yeah, can you click on the little puzzle piece on the top there? I can't see it. Is the Terra station and
yeah, Terra
okay, there it
station,
is.
yeah.
So click
Click
on that.
once.
What do you see in there?
It says access with ledger. It says new wallet, recover existing.
Yeah, dude,
wallet.
you don't have a
Oh,
wallet
you don't
set
have
up, man.
Yeah.
Okay,
you don't have
so
a
that's-
wallet yet.
Wallet set up. That's the
Okay, so
problem,
I just
man.
have to create a new wallet. Okay,
Yeah, exactly.
got it.
Yeah.
It keeps saying some time is required for accurate data. I'm like,
Nah,
what? Like,
nah,
what?
dude.
I'm like, why
No.
is this taking so long?
No,
Oh,
but you're
once
calling
you get
out.
that
I mean,
wallet.
look, this is a problem. This is a problem, man. We're not
Like,
used to having to download wallets. and
It's
shit.
a whole new thing, and just especially if you're new to crypto, people are going to be like, "What is all this? What's an extension wallet?" Like,
But
what?
once you use it
I have
a few
MetaMask.
times, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
it's
used
the same. It's the
MetaMask.
same.
I've used Unit.
Yeah.
You know, I've done those different types of things. So yeah, that was probably a dumb thing for me. But the point is just I think there's just some onboarding stuff to figure some of these things out for people. But
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But
I also
cool.
think it needs to be all in app form. It should all be on a mobile
Yeah.
phone. We shouldn't
Yeah.
have to be on a
Which
desktop.
they do have in South Korea. It's just United States kind of.
I haven't seen it, so I
slacking.
don't know. Have you seen it, Josh? I haven't seen it.
Those talked about it. There is an actual app. Yeah, it's there, but we
And
can't.
I know they're working on
download
Alice.
it.
They're working on Alice, which is supposed to be like a really user-friendly thing that integrates Anchor and Mirror. But probably a subject for another conversation.
Oh,
Can
yeah,
I drop?
we're just
Can I drop one more Bitcoin thing before we clock out? Since this was kind of, we focused a lot on Bitcoin today. I thought this was an interesting chart that was floating around Twitter today. This is miners that are buying and selling Bitcoin, and you can see there was pretty major sell-offs for a period of time. We saw like a little blip right here where miners were essentially holding the dip, and then you can see they started to sell as the price approached $60,000. And as this dip is happening right now, we can see miners. We're seeing something potentially that looks like this, where miners are starting to hold again, which sometimes is a bullish sign for Bitcoin.
I do have a question about this one. I thought it was Michael Saylor who commented on this. He said, "Yeah, this makes sense to see public miners. Like, is this data only publicly traded mining companies, and it doesn't include all the private stuff or government stuff, or is this all miners?"
I'm not sure on that.
Because
Yeah,
there is someone
I'm not sure.
retweeted this picture and just said they implied it was just public miners, which I don't know how big the
Good
public
question.
is versus the private mining companies, but I'd imagine there's a significant amount of miners that wouldn't be included in this if that were the case.
I think a lot of this data is a little sketchy because there's a lot of guessing of what wallets what and things like that. So I'm not gonna to attempt to act like I know what I'm talking about with that. But I guess I'm assuming, and I am a perma bull with Bitcoin, so I'm probably looking for the more bullish stuff to go back to Nick's point. But it is an interesting data point to consider, that potentially when you look at history, miners have started to hold when they feel like Bitcoin's going to be making an upward movement. So,
real quick before we end,
yeah,
and we're going to wrap up here. For everybody who's listening, we are actually really making a concerted effort to step up our game from a streaming standpoint. None of us come from like audiovisual backgrounds or Twitch streaming and things like that, but we really care that you guys value your time and spend it with us, and we try to kind of come prepared to talk through some things that we think are interesting out there and might be informative for you. We're working on a Discord. We're working on our social media. We've got a bunch of things that are in the works. We're trying to get kind of all of our emotes and emojis set up, and so like if you have Twitch Prime, I think eventually you'll be able to subscribe. Maybe you're already able to subscribe
Prime.
to our channel. Yeah, Amazon Prime. But yeah, we're super excited to be doing this, and we're just going to try to keep getting better because yeah, we enjoy this, and we appreciate your time. So there's some things that we're working on. Hopefully you'll like what we have coming here soon.
And we will be better at getting here on time for you guys too, just so you're not waiting.
we're trying to figure that out. Three different time zones.
Yeah, 3.
Thank you, Suplug. We appreciate the support, man. And yeah, maybe you're gonna be an OG in here. So maybe if you're like our first subscriber, I think you get like an emoji or something. You get some special badge or something. But I'm not sure we have that fully set up. Eric, you'd know more, but yeah.
Cool.
So, but anyway, we can talk about that more on a
Nice. Well, we're going to be back Thursday at 9 Eastern, and
6
we're
PST, 6 Pacific.
6 Pacific. So we're excited
8
to see you
Central.
guys then. 8 Central. We're all over the place.
We got all the time, so let's do it.
But we'll see you guys then.
All right. Adios.